Welcome back, friends. Thanks for being here. If you're new to the channel, I do ham radio and vintage computing, and hopefully marrying the two together someday. Today, this is more modern computing with Jordan from JS8Call. Jordan has a wonderful piece of software that enables communications from keyboard to keyboard using weak signal modes, and he's going to come up and explain it all to us, and some sneak peek at some upcoming features that he's got planned. This is a clip from the YouTubers Hamfest Spring 2020. Awesome weekend. If you have not seen it, I will link to the playlist in one of the cards and in the description down below. And stick around for some awesome news from Jordan. All right, Jordan. How are you today?
Doing well, man. Following Bob. I don't know if I have my microphone close enough.
I told everybody in the chat room any of Bob's audio problems were all me on Mac OS and OBS and YouTube live stream, and it's all me. Bob's audio was fantastic.
Yeah, it was really good. I'm really excited to be here. Happy to chat. Talk a little bit about JS8. You might notice I have two people in the Zoom room. I have my computer here, which I'll present from. I want to do a demo connected to the rig. So this one is where the good mic is on a different computer, but it's still not as good as Bob's mic.
All right. So Jordan, give us a short introduction as to who you are. I mean, a lot of people in the chat room are here because of your email group posting, so a lot of them know who you are, but a lot of them don't. So talk about what you are and how you thought of JS8Call and what JS8Call does. And by the way, do your best to basically swallow that mic because I got audio chain problems on my end.
Okay, cool. I'll boost it and get this really close. I do have a boom, so I at least have that going for me. I'm Jordan Sherer, KN4CRD. I created the application called JS8Call, which is an app for communicating under weak signal conditions. It uses a mode called JS8, which is based on FT8, and happy to chat about that here today. I have a little presentation which will run through some background about it, and then I've got a demo with some upcoming new stuff that's happening in 2.2 and beyond for JS8. I'm going to try to do the share screen down here from the other computer. How's that?
Looks good to me.
Okay, perfect. We'll go ahead and get started. This should. So JS8Call, what is that? When was it created? What's it for? What do you use it for? What do you do with it? I'm really happy to talk about it. To get started, I was licensed in April of 2017. Really new ham, and I was fascinated by digital modes. I immediately connected with JT65 and then FT8 soon released right after that. And it was really interesting time for me getting into radio. And so playing with FT8, I decided that I wanted to take it a little bit further. And so the result of that so far, I was actually awarded the 2020 Hamvention Special Achievement Award this year.
Awesome.
Unfortunately, we can't be there, so I'm happy to do this virtually because it's a lot of fun.
Okay, Jordan, I mean, we're still getting some feedback that the audio's a little low. If you could like really get up on that microphone. I'm all the way up to 11 on my end. There's not much more I can do on my end.
Okay. All right, this is as close as I can get.
Much better.
Without swallowing it. All right, so does everyone see my screen? We're still good with that?
Yeah.
Okay. Actually, let me make sure that I'm sharing the right. Let's see here. I'm going to share my full desktop. And there we go.
You have three babies. I get that.
So I have three babies. One is my fur baby Wally, cute little golden doodle. Other one is Charlotte, was born in 2018. And my third baby is JS8, also born in 2018. I actually created JS8 while Charlotte was just an infant. I was on some parental leave, and it was really something that was just totally took over me. So my goal here for today is really just leave with one new idea. I want everyone who's watching to be able to get at least a new idea out of the presentation. So we're going to talk a little bit about what JS8Call is, how it works, and the equipment you need, and I want to do a little demo. So JS8 is the mode. JS8Call is the software. And it's really an experiment combining the robustness of FT8 with messaging, a network protocol, so you can communicate over weak signal. We're living in a low sunspot time where we have really poor propagation. And so having a digital mode that allows you to communicate in those conditions is something that I've been working on. The networking and the messaging is the extension of where FT8 started and taking it to the next level. So this is what the software looks like. It might be familiar to the folks who are watching. This is actually an old screenshot. It's changed a little bit since then, but in general, you've got your waterfall, you've got the band activity, and all of the signals that you can see. But what is it? It's not just chat. It is actually creating a network of stations that can communicate with each other and allow to relay messages between those stations, store messages on those stations for later retrieval, kind of like an inbox mechanism, allow for really simple automatic broadcast under query from other stations. What's my signal report? What's your information? Where are you located? There's also an API for the software, so you can extend it. A lot of programmers are building on top of JS8Call. Some really interesting things. So the network actually spans across the world, and it has we usually will have about somewhere between 600 and 1,000 unique stations on the air every day. And so you can really see the power of weak signaling from there. So how does it work? It's like FT8. Messages are segmented and transmitted in little pieces. And those pieces are transmitted at a rate for normal mode. It's similar to FT8, where it's a 15-second cycle. So every 15 seconds, it sends a piece of a new message. That message is actually compressed into a nice and efficient form to send that data most efficiently. It's got two different compression algorithms. And then the software puts everything back together. So here's an example. This is a message that's going to take 2 minutes to send in normal mode, about 13, 14 words per minute, depending on how you structure that message. And the interesting thing is that there's different speeds for JS8Call. On top of that, there's some directed commands where you can instruct a station to do something, reply to with my signal report, reply with your grid, any kind of stored messaging, and we'll get into that. I've got some examples of that. So we have 4 different speeds inside of JS8Call: slow, normal, fast, and turbo. So 8 words per minute for slow, and that's taking 30 seconds per transmission. Turbo, it takes 6 seconds per transmission. And so depending on how you've structured your message, it gets chopped up and it's transmitted at those rates. And it's really easy to get started with JS8. So you need a receiver, a transceiver if you want to transmit, an antenna, a computer, an audio interface, and that's it. It runs on Windows, Mac, Linux, Raspberry Pi. I've seen it on some tablet forms of those machines. It's really cool to see the people who are using that. And this is one of my portable stations. It's got a tiny little netbook plugged into just a USB sound card, hooked up into my KX2. And this was a winter field day. So what's coming in 2.2? That's the next version of the software. Got some decoder improvements. The coolest thing is automatic time synchronization. Part of the weak signaling inside of FTA and in JS8 is that it relies on having an accurate clock. The accuracy is like plus or minus 2 seconds on the interval. And that allows the decoder to look in a specific window of time for new signals. So in 2.2, we actually have automatic time synchronization, so you don't actually have to have internet time or GPS dongle or anything like that. You can actually synchronize your time straight to signals that are in the passband, which is really cool. And then something that might make it in, and it's very special, I'll show it to you in the demo. So where can you get it? It's JS8Call.com. We have a really active groups. So if you join there, I think there's 11,000 people in there, and tons of folks who are willing to help newcomers come along and get up to speed. So I'm going to switch over to demo. I wanted to be this kind of like an Ask Me Anything. So if you have questions, if you're in the chat room, ask some questions. Steve, if you can just relay those as they're coming in, and I'm happy to answer anything, but I'd love to show some of this off.
Yeah, sure.
Great. All right, so here's the software, and it's running right now on 40 meters. I've got my rig sitting here, and with the software, it's kind of built like other ham radio software where you have your waterfall. This is the signals that are coming in through your audio card and spectrum display. And then that's at the bottom here. And on the left-hand side, this is all of the messages, the things that are happening inside of the passband that you're monitoring. So these are messages that are coming in right now from other stations on the air. So if you're on the air, feel free, you can try to send me a message. It might come in. On the right-hand side here, we have lists of the call signs that you've heard. These are the specific stations that and where they are in their offset, what their signal report was, how far off they were on their time, their timing. So these are the stations. I just rebooted this. This is in the past half hour. It seems like 40 meters is kind of low today.
Jordan, they're asking you for an Android app. When's that coming out?
Android, I would love to build an Android app. I just haven't been able to yet. It's a lot of work to actually get that to happen. The folks who use Android do usually use like a VNC program with Raspberry Pi. So they'll hook up their Raspberry Pi, have that connected to their rig, and then connect to that over VNC through Wi-Fi. And usually that works pretty well. And actually, it's pretty handy. So your machine isn't actually connected to your rig. So that's pretty fun.
So Julian, OH8STN, has a great video on connecting the rig to a Raspberry Pi to a VNC front end and controlling the whole thing from a tablet or an Android phone. So there's a way to do that. We get another question about if there's any documentation for compiling that. So if you wanted to drop a link to that or something like that, we can take care of that for you.
Sure, definitely. Inside of the repo, there's an install doc. In 2.2, the instructions are getting a little more clear for compiling it yourself. If you have a Linux box, it's really simple. It's a little bit more difficult on Mac, and in Windows, that one's even more difficult. But the documentation will be updated soon for 2.2. So the fun thing that I want to share here is the automatic time synchronization. So built in 2.0 of JS8, I believe is when we released it, was the ability to manually drift your clock. So you could match up your local machine drift to stations that you'd see. It was a visual thing. You had to see, the green lines here in the waterfall, try to match it up with when a signal was coming in, and you'd use these buttons. So as soon as you get like the minute start, as soon as you see a signal, you'd hit that, and it'd synchronize the time. In 2.2, I am releasing automatic time drift. So you just start that, and you can stop it after a decode, or you can continue to run it. The automatic time drift, what it's doing is going to look every few seconds inside of the waterfall, inside of the passband, looking for signals to decode. And as soon as it finds one, it'll decode it and try to adjust the time drift to match. And then it averages over time. And this is pretty accurate. We'll see the drift should happen here in a second when the signal comes in that's being decoded right now. Yeah, and see, so look, my drift was just pushed up 388 milliseconds. So as soon as you get signals coming in that are decodable, your drift will start trying to match an average between those signals. So you can stop it after a particular decode, but you can leave it running if you have a more powerful CPU. It does take more power to do that, decoding every few seconds instead of every 15 seconds. So yeah, we're getting this now, so it's still like plus 378 milliseconds. Really cool. Awesome. Already starting to get some messages in from other folks.
Yeah, this is definitely live, folks. So if you want to send them a message on JS8Call, get in there.
Absolutely. So that's one of the really cool things in 2.2. You can synchronize your time. You don't have to have internet time, and then you can stop. It goes back to the normal sync, the normal decode cycles. But here I'm, plus 367 milliseconds off of true time, or at least off of time for these signals that I've received. It's kind of the average between them all. Cool. So the other cool thing, and I don't know if it's going to be in 2.2, something I've been working on. It might be in 3.0, but is a new mode, new speed called Ultra, and allowing you to transmit at 60 words per minute. That is the highest that I probably will be comfortable sending out to folks, but it's really cool. It's a 4-second transmit time,
Awesome.
and you can really turn on the afterburners then and make it happen. Nobody actually has this right now, so if I transmitted it, nobody would be able to decode it. But it is really fun to play with. I've been testing that live between a couple dummy loads.
We got a question in the chat room here. How will that work with GPS and real-time clock-locked Raspberry Pis? And then another one is it necessary to sync the clock at all after version 2.0?
Yeah, so after version 2.0, you'd want to do at least the automatic time drift once when you start the program. The need for that is mostly limited for CPU processing. It actually takes a lot of processing power to try to decode those signals every second, every few seconds. So the optimization there is to find the synchronization and then turn it off. So then it's back to a normal, the decode's running at a normal speed. And then you don't have any issues with, especially the portable machines like the Raspberry Pis and stuff, becoming bogged down from the CPU.
All right, sounds good. Sounds good. And what kind of CPU power are you looking forward to having for AutoTime?
Yeah, AutoTime, it works on the Raspberry Pi 3B Plus, and so anything that or better. A normal laptop will decode it fine. It's generally like with that running maybe 2x CPU from normal JS8.
Okay.
And so it just, I don't know if you can hear it. My machine was running and now the fan's going.
That's fine.
Yeah.
So one of my favorite questions just popped up. Can we pass JSON through this? Some kind of structured data?
Yeah, you can pass any data. So there's no limitation to what you can do with the actual output. So I could type in, if I wanted to type in structured data here, I could. I could come up with a form. I could come up with a way to encode it in a special way. You can do all that through the API. And in 2.2, the API is improving just slightly, so it's a little bit easier to use. It would allow you to build other applications really simply. So if you had like maybe an MCOM form or something like that, or maybe you wanted to connect it to FL Message or another ham radio application to build the message that you're sending, you could do that through the API.
Okay,
so,
cool.
Yeah, you're only limited based on the character set that JS8 supports, which is uppercase ASCII. That's the Latin 8 version of that. So the Latin characters work as well.
Excellent.
Great. Yeah. Any other questions?
We got a couple of questions coming through. One guy's asking about security. Is it interpreted in any way, or is the data simply displayed?
Yeah, data is just displayed. Oh, cool. We just got a message. So I'm going to pause there. We're going to look at the message that was just received. So I just received a message from N3RTB. So thanks for the message saying good live YouTube. The cool thing here is that I have my station on auto mode. And so I can automatically respond to N3RTB with an acknowledgement of the received message. And in 2.2, I have a confirmation feature enabled. So you have to go and click yes to actually send it. That's an optional confirmation. So I'm going to say yes. I'm going to transmit to N3RTB. Oh, I don't have my, let's see here. I don't have them selected. Let's do this. Oh, just got another message too. K8CJM, thank you. All right, we're not going to do the axe here now. If you're watching, I'm acknowledging your message. But the cool thing is each of these messages that come in, you don't have to be at the station to receive it. Your station could be running, decoding those messages and stored. And you see here, I have a little flag on the right saying that there's a message. I'm going to show the message inbox. And so these are all the messages that I've received from K8CJM. Pretty cool. And I could reply from here if I wanted to. The neat thing with JS8 is that there's a network of stations running that can receive these messages, and it can forward messages through those stations too. So I could say if I couldn't communicate with K8CJM, but I knew someone, a station that could, I could relay that message through that other station. So I could say, hey, N3RTB, I'm going to send a message to K8CJM through you, and it would be received by K8CJM.
Okay, great.
The other cool part about that is you can store those messages there too. You don't have to have a real-time relay. So I could store a message on some other machine, some other station that's on the air, and then I can query for those messages later. And that's here in the software. I've run into, excuse me, you can do an all call like this and query messages. And if you send that, anybody who has that automatic reply on will reply saying, hey, you've got a message ID number 15, and then you can retrieve that message. It's pretty cool.
So we got about 5 minutes left here, and the comments are coming in, and the software is fantastic. One of the comments was, what are the color highlights? What, like, you got pink and purple and yellow on there?
Absolutely. Sure, definitely. So inside of the application, you can change the UI colors for different highlighting. So I have green set for CQ messages, people who are calling CQ. The red for if it contains my call sign directed to me. And then I have some highlighted messages, so the pink and the lime green for different call signs that I recognize or that I communicate with pretty frequently.
Awesome. And then they're asking about, does this work crossband, or is this only if I wanted to do a store and forward type message only for 40 meter store and forward? I can't do 40 to relay to a 20 to relay back to a 40?
Yeah, so it doesn't have crossband switching, but what we do have is stations on the air who have automatic band switching turned on. So you can actually do a scheduled band switch. So say I'm going to switch to 7, 8, and I can pick the time when I switch to that. So if you had a station on the air that had automatic frequency scheduling, they'd hop 14 megahertz on the day and then 7 megahertz at night. That would work fine. So you could store a message on 40 meters and retrieve it on 20 meters the next day.
All right, that sounds pretty excellent. Looks like there's some people in the chat room who are using this on CB frequencies.
That is true, yes. That's pretty cool. Digital CB is allowed in Europe. And so there will be 50 or 75 different CB stations every weekend transmitting on 11 meters, which is pretty cool. It's not, the software isn't designed for that. It is designed for ham radio, so A lot of the call sign logic and the routing logic and stuff like that is looking for valid ham radio call signs. But there are ways around that the CBers have been able to figure out.
All right, awesome. So it looks like what we're going to have to do is make some videos on how to use this, how to get started, what some of these different things mean. You know, like just step by step, one video for each little function of this thing. This thing's got a lot of functionality, and it gets overwhelming pretty quick.
Yeah, that's definitely true. Something I've been working on, some better documentation, some tutorial videos. Some other folks have writing tutorial videos. It's really cool to see the community coming around and participating in the development of the program. We did that really early on when I started building it. We had a 6-month or 9-month beta period or something like that, where folks were just trying new releases every week. We were experimenting. A lot of features got cut. New features came up. It was really cool to see that feedback process.
Excellent. Yeah, it's a fantastic program. It's definitely taken off.
Yeah, definitely. So if anybody who's watching is interested, it's JS8Call.com. There's also a link to the groups.io from there. A really good community. Definitely feel free to send me an email. I'm happy to chat anytime about it.
All right, we got one last question for you. Do you have a signal processing background or just software development?
No signal processing, just software development. Definitely took a deep dive in the Fortran world that the FT8 stuff was built in, and learned a lot along the way. And then started really getting interested in the what do I want to say? The forward error correction, the sort of ways to operate in weak signal.
All right, Jordan, we nailed it on time. I think we got through a bunch of questions. We got through the presentation. You've got some pretty exciting new features coming out. JS8Call.com, groups.io for JS8Call group. Download the software. Get on the air, everybody.
Definitely. Thank you, Steve. Really excited. And anybody who wants to chat, feel free to reach out.